Heimdallr, Sea Shepherd. That, before I did my research, made absolutely no sense to me. And I'm glad I did my research because I think the branding of this is cooler than I originally thought. It's fantastic. So I'm going to cover that in this review. It's the branding, a bit of history behind the names Heimdallr, Sea Shepherd as well. That's got some relevance. I thought, what is a Sea Shepherd? Did some research, found out about it. I'm going to share that with you. It's really interesting. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit about the Seiko Tuna, which is its nickname, and it's also known as the hockey puck. And that watch is what is the grandfather to the many iterations Seiko make today even, and other companies such as Heimdallr and the others out there pay homage to. And that is why we're taking a look at this watch. Is it a successful homage? And is it worth your money? Because it's less than £200. And if you want to buy the equivalent Seiko, it's double that most of the time. So check this video out and I hope you enjoy it. And don't forget to subscribe, you naughty people, if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. And before I do a close-up of this watch and show you in more detail the fit and finish, run through the specs, things like that, I know you're itching to know that, but please don't skip this part because I'm just going to give you a bit of context and a bit of history behind what this watch is paying homage to, and that is the Tuna. And that's its nickname. Its other nickname is the hockey puck. That's because of the design. The shape is literally just the same shape and design as a hockey puck or a tuna can. Really easy nicknames to come up with. But it wears really well on the wrist because of that weird shape. It's quite unusual. Not many watches have that. But it's not designed to be pretty or look like that. This is a tall watch. This is the proper tall watch. And in 1968, Seiko received a letter from a saturation diver from a city in, what was it called? It was Kure City in Hiroshima. And he basically said, your watches that you've been making so far, from 1965 onwards to the day he wrote the letter, were not robust enough for him when he goes diving. And he says they can't take sustained depths. They're mostly skin divers is what they were releasing before that. In the 60s, it was most watches were for shallower depths. They weren't for proper diving for most people. So Seiko needed to up their game because he was saying your watches aren't robust enough. They can easily get battered and broken, and they don't like the pressure for sustained periods of time. So Seiko took on the challenge. They designed a new real beast of a watch for diving. So they came up with the watch you see. It's got the outer case, which is a shell effectively on the outer thing, which is to stop any massive impacts. That originally was made of titanium, where it had a ceramic coating. It was anti-magnetic. It had a helium release valve because that's what is needed because of the depths you go, and it's stop reaction between the seals. And there was loads of clever stuff that went into that watch. And it's a cult classic. Originals sell for £2,500 plus from 1975. But this is an homage, and it's only it's less than £200. Then Seiko still release tuna can versions today. You know, there's loads of different types. So it's just a sustained continuation of their dive watch as a proper piece of kit. So now you've got a bit of understanding behind the history and the original grandfather that inspired Seiko's modern watches and this homage. Let's take a look at the homage, see if it's any good. So guys, thanks for checking me out long enough to get to this point. And what I'm going to cover first are the stats and the specs of this watch, so you get an idea of what we're looking at. So we're going to begin with, I've written it down here because I can't memorize it all, but I will pop it on the screen as well just to help you out. The case width on this watch is 47mm, but the strange bit is the lug to lug is a tiny bit shorter. It's 46, or how I measured it. So it's a slightly oval shape, ever so slightly. You won't really notice it. The lug width is 22mm, which I'd say is proportional for this size of watch. It's 132 grams even on the rubber strap, so it's relatively heavy, but it feels like the weight distribution on this watch is very comfortable. The thickness is 14mm. So those are proportions and the weight. So now we understand that, I'm going to run through the materials of this watch. And as a given with most Chinese homage watches, you're getting a really good spec for your money. This is all stainless steel, 316L. It's got a Seiko NH35 movement, which hacks and hand winds. And it has 40 to 41 hour power reserve. It's a 3 Hertz frequency, so it's relatively low maintenance. They're reliable. They keep good time. You've got all the pros of an NH35. So you've got a ceramic bezel with a loomed pip. You have see-through loom on that pip and also on the indices and the hands. Then you have a good quality rubber strap. Originally I thought it was a bit stiff and waxy feeling, but actually it is very comfortable, and actually has a pleasant smell. It actually smells a bit like vanilla. And you get a really nice buckle with Heimdallr etched on there. It's all brushed as well. Good finishing on there. And it's appropriate for this type of watch, which is effectively paying homage to the granddaddy of dive watches, of proper big beefy dive watches, the Tuna from 1975. But this won't have the same design integrity that that watch had. And by design integrity, I mean basically the original had so many layers and gaskets built within this to make it as water resistant as it was. I think it was 600 meters. I mean, that's incredible. It was a proper beast of a tool watch. This is 200 meters, but this isn't ISO rated, and a lot of watches aren't really, because it costs a lot of money to be ISO rated. And then the watch will cost a lot more. So what I'm saying with this watch is it has the look of the Tuna, but it won't obviously have that incredible depth rating that that watch had. But I would still trust this in the water, because it has a screw down crown, a screw case back, has all the gaskets you would require. It's I would trust it. I would say it should be fine. Now I'm going to move on now to what my likes and dislikes are before I show you some outdoor shots, and then I'll finish with a conclusion. So I'll start with my likes, and that is I've already discussed the specification and the sizing of this watch. Even though it's a big watch, it fits and wears really comfortably. That's a like. If you want to wear a watch that has a bit of a statement about it, and you want to go for a bright colour, it really stands out on the wrist. But it's comfortable. It's obviously not going to tuck under a shirt cuff, but it's comfortable to wear all day, and I've had no issues with that. So I like the styling, I like the comfort, I like the feel of it on the wrist, which I'll show you now. Like I say, it's comfortable. I like how it looks on the wrist. I like the spec, everything I've discussed in the spec, all the materials, the AR coated sapphire, the colour I love, the loom, the bezel, the ceramic. It's going to be long lasting in terms of its finish, looking good. The all brushed effect on most of it. Again, it looks like a proper tool watch. And if you don't want to have such a garish colour, you can have it with black, or you can have it as white. The good thing is, compared to a Seiko, you do have more choices. And another cool thing is I checked out on the Heimdallr site, you can buy separately these shrouds for about $50, which works out about 30 to 40 pounds. And you can even change the screws if you wanted to. So there's an element of modding you can do to these, which again, I like. So the last thing I want to say is my likes is the branding. I like the fact Heimdallr is like the god of keen sight. It's relevant to the sea because he blew the Galahorn before Ragnarok, and that's appropriate for a sea themed watch, of course, as is Sea Shepherd, which is a badass boat which goes around ramming whaling ships. So there's a picture of it here. It's really cool. So I just like that. So they've thought about the branding, and it's appropriate for a water-based themed watch. Now moving on to my dislikes, the main thing, and probably one of the only things which I've discovered from wearing this watch a while, is the first one is this bezel. There's something wrong with it. It is so stiff. You see, it's denting my finger. Look at that, to turn it. And I've tried different methods of turning it. I know the whole bezel isn't exposed, of course. It's going to make it harder to turn. So I'm not being daft. I've fiddled with this, as you can imagine, for review a lot. So bear this in mind. I've done in my comparison video how I cut my finger. It's healed a bit now, but I got to the point where I was so peeved at not being able to turn it. I was turning it like this. My finger slipped and it cut on this bit, which isn't sharp. It's just that it was such force I gashed my finger, which isn't acceptable. But I have a little surprise for you here, just to show you how that is not a continuous problem with every single one they make, because I've got another one right here. Watch this. I bought two. When are you going to see two green Heimdallrs on one screen? I'm an idiot. I accidentally bought two. I don't know what I was doing, but in a way it's helpful for the content, because this has two interesting things which are different about this one, even though it's sold exactly the same. Number one, check out the crown on this one. Sterile. On the website they say it's sterile. But how nice is this? That is etched. I was like, oh, I like that. Prefer that. That's a pro. And then look at the bezel. I'm not tearing my fingertips off to turn it. And the action's better, as you can hear. It's 120 click and it's very positive. Everything else is the same. Literally everything else, apart from I've noticed, is that, which is a plus, as is the bezel action, much better. No other quality control issues at all. So this is the one I got first, so I'm going to stick with this one. And the other thing I noticed is green on green, with green on the loom, etc., etc. It's not an immediate, like, what's the time, quick, easy read, because it seems to blend in a bit too much. Yeah, if you went for the black dial, it would contrast easier so you could read it, but I just love the green, and that slips back into the positive category. So yeah, that's the pros and the cons, and I still think the branding is fantastic, and I know on the negative side of things you can say yes, it is an homage, and it's a little bit expensive end of the homage range, but apart from that bezel action, which I've seen on another one being okay, it's worth the money. So I'm really impressed. Like I said, it was 143 plus £40 for fees and everything, but you can get it if you're lucky. There's different colorways, etc. If you check out on the Heimdallr website, they do have a European warehouse with stuff, so you don't have to pay the import tax if you're based in Europe or anywhere else where you don't want to buy direct from China, which is where I bought this and the other one from. So yeah, let's move on to my outdoor shots, just to show you what this watch looks out of the studio light setting, so you get an idea of how nice it looks in a different way. And then I'll finish with my conclusion. So see you in about 30 seconds. So in conclusion, we have Shrek and Kermit here. I have fallen for this watch. Even though this had a flaw, I still was like, I'm keeping this. I'm not going to flog it straight away. But what's made my decision even easier is getting one that was perfect in my eyes, plus a little upgrade of having the signed crown. I don't know if that is even the Heimdallr logo, but I just like it's got something on there. It just looks cool. But the point I'm making is, I like that this is quirky, it's unique. You don't see many of these getting reviewed because there's lots of other brands that do tuner homages. And if I had the money and the resources and the ability to get from all the brands to compare them, I would. But I thought, this is my first experience with the Heimdallr. It's been positive enough, even with that dodgy bezel. I've bought another one which is coming, which is an SKX homage, which is a new updated version, which has got some different design features that the Seikos don't have. It's got different colour loom and different indices, things like that, and different colour dials. So that's in the pipeline, guys. But to finalise my thoughts on this watch is, would I recommend it? Yes. Is there a risk you'll get one with a dodgy bezel? Potentially. It's weird that I've had two without realising one came with and one came without signing on there. But everything else is fine. You are getting a fantastic spec. The price is a little bit high, but like I've said before, there are ways you could get a Sea Shepherd for less by buying one from their European stock. Saves you about £40 if you're in the UK. That's another plus. And it's a fun watch. And if you don't like green, there are other colours, like I've said. So, thanks for watching, guys. It's been a pleasure sharing this with you. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, because I've got so much in the pipeline. It's crazy. I wish I had more time. I try and squeeze in more than 2 videos a week, but 2 is a struggle at the moment. So thanks for your patience if you stick with me. And I try and make more and more interesting stuff for you, because I find all this so fascinating and I love sharing my findings with you. And it's been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.